Alright, crew, after a long time off from streaming, we are back. It's been a while, but I'm coming back here. This time we have some Chane gameplay. This is from a recent online Blitz event. I was playing Chane, and it's been a deck that I've had some good results with in online Blitz. And actually, this is also going to serve as a bit of an advertisement, I suppose, because this is not only going to be showing a previous event, but also there's another one of these events that's going to be coming on this evening. So this is the Fighters Guild tournament, and if you want to check that out, I think it's a $10 entry fee. It is a Blitz tournament, and actually I'm going to pause this while I discuss the upcoming tournament. So yeah, the Fighters Guild tournament, it's going to be a $10 entry fee online Blitz tournament, and it has some pretty decent prizes. It's going to be several rounds of Swiss cut to top 8. I did not record every game that I played from the previous tournament, but I had a fair few of them, so I'm now going to be streaming some of that gameplay with some commentary on Chane and Blitz. So this game I'm playing against a Rhinar deck that's using the Mandible Claws, and we're going to see how that goes. Okay, so I am playing Chane. I have an article on my website that discusses my Chane build in more detail, and I think it's a fairly solid build, but it's not. It's nothing too special. It's fairly standard stuff. Blitz Chane. You got a lot of armor with your Carrion Husk. You got some pretty threatening attacks, and you're gonna just kind of try to go out there and do some damage. All right, so we're going. I'm playing against a Rhinar who's using Mandible Claws. Now, one of the first things that you do when you're playing Chane is you see whether or not your opponent has any arcane barrier. If they don't, anything you do that does arcane damage is basically free hits. There's kind of an exception because sometimes people are going to be defending that with the Arcanite Skullcap, but a lot of the time it's going to be some free hits. So let's see how things progress. My opponent here playing out the Tear Limb from Limb, which is going to be a big buff to his brute stuff. This is a card that essentially doubles the base damage of one of your things. Pretty powerful card. Nothing at all 544. Thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Now, the thing where I think I got a little lucky here is I believe that this Tear Limb from Limb ended up discarding the only brute card in his hand that he could actually play. So, even though he got potentially double damage, I think it kind of ends up falling on its face here because he kind of got an unlucky 1 in 3. He does get an Intimidate against me because it's a Strength 6 card, but he's not going to be able to actually capitalize on it in the way that he wants. I'm sure the ideal situation would be that he intimidates me, then he plays some other card, maybe one that even intimidates me again. But he ends up actually going for a CNC, and he uses his Heart and Cross Strap to do that. And I am happy to see that. I was worried that I was going to be hit potentially for more Intimidate and then a multiplied attack. But yeah, we'll see. Nothing at all 544 says, thanks for all the RTN tracking you do. Yeah, so this is something that people who have been following the streams in the past but not the blog might not know about. I'm currently tracking event results from major tournaments in Flesh and Blood. So one of those is going to be Road to Nationals. That's the one that I've actually been most focused on. If you go to my website, towernumber9.com, and then you go to in the header, there's something that says Fab Event Results Tracker. If you click on that, you'll see the event statistics that I currently have for Road to Nationals events. I have a separate tab that has base rate statistics for events that I have full meta breakdowns for. I have another tab that has the current Living Legend points. So there's some cool features there if you guys want to check that out. In the meantime, so my opponent did that Command and Conquer. I ended up double blocking it, so didn't take any damage, and he played some high impact cards to no draw results. So I'm pretty happy with how that first turn went, especially because my opponent also used his Heart and Cross Strap, which means that's not going to be available for the future. I think he probably got a little unlucky there with the Tear Limb from Limb. I'm not sure that I would have played the Command and Conquer. I think it's such a valuable card that it might be better to save it. but I don't know what his other card that he had in hand and that is now in Arsenal is. So kind of a complicated situation. Okay, so then here I'm going to come in. I think this is, I use Chane and I swing Nebula Blade for 1. This is not normally what you want to be doing, so it's coming in for 1, and if it hits I'll get a Rune Chant, and then I'm going to follow that up with an E-Strike. So the reason that I did it in this order is that it lets me use my Shackle to do something. He ended up blocking it with his armor, which I'm fine with, and then an E-Strike, I believe, coming in for 7, and I'm going to Arsenal my remaining card. So I could have done E-Strike 5, go again into the Nebula Blade, but that would have been 2 less damage, and I think doing it this way ends up being more efficient. So E-Strike, pretty solid card. You know, it's one of those cards that just has a lot of it has a lot of flexibility. So if you have an E-Strike, and you know, if you find yourself in that situation where it's like, oh, I have an E-Strike in hand, there's really a lot of different ways that it can go, especially with some of these decks that have various things to give go again. So, you know, I find myself sometimes using E-Strike go again, sometimes using E-Strike draw a card, sometimes even using E-Strike with just the stats. In fact, just the stats might be one of the most common. I think with Chane, stats might be the most common, then maybe draw a card, then maybe go again, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to do some more testing on that. And I haven't really been like recording how I use it. So draw a card can be really good if you're combining it with the Snapdragon Scalers, or if you're using your what's that card called? Shadow Puppetry. That can be a really good combination. Go again is, you know, just 5 damage, does take 2 cards, but you can throw it in the middle of something else. And then 7 is just, you know, the big damage option. All right, so my opponent's coming in big here. He plays a, that's going to be a Barraging Beatdown, and then he follows that up with a Blood Rush Bellow, and he actually hits a, this is one of the, kind of almost a worst case scenario for me. He has the Blood Rush Bellow, and it hits a Beast Within, so that's going to be, he's basically going to get a bonus draw from that, even though it will damage him slightly. And I saw there that I believe he has an Alpha Rampage, so I think this is very likely going to be a turn where I get my entire hand intimidated, because he's already intimidated 2 cards, one from the Barraging Beatdown and one from the discard from the Blood Rush Bellow. And now I believe he's going to come on in with that Alpha Rampage that I saw in hand. I could be wrong, though. I might be misremembering this. But I think he has the ability to play it, given that he got his card draws and that he got his both from the Blood Rush Bellow and from the Beast Within. So Beast Within's kind of a weird card. Basically, the way that it works is that if you discard it outside of the combat chain, you start top decking until you hit an attack, I believe, and then you take 1 damage for each one. So first he's going to come in with a Mandible Claw. So this is going to be this is actually a major gaffe from my opponent, because if he plays his Blood Rush Bellow, or if he plays his Alpha Rampage, it intimidates my remaining hand. And in this case, he does not. He does this Mandible Claw first, which allows me to double block, and that means that he doesn't get the extra damage that he would have gotten from his Barraging Beatdown. And now he plays the Alpha Rampage, but the Intimidate is wasted because I don't have any cards in hand anymore. And so what I'm going to end up doing is blocking this with my Husk. It's coming in for huge damage. I think it's like 13 damage. But 13 damage here, it's just not going to be, it's not going to be that big a deal. I block with my Husk and take 7, so obviously he hit me hard, but the turn could have gone worse for me, I think. I could be wrong. It's possible that he thought that that getting the 2 cards out of my hand was worth it, but he ended up with his Intimidate not really doing anything, and I don't know. You know, I'd have to think about that sequence again. As a Brute player, I'm not sure, but I can just say that when I saw him swing that Claw, I was happy, because I was like, oh, whew. Now this means I'm going to be able to block out with these 2 cards in hand. I'm not going to be intimidated, and that means that Barraging Beatdown isn't going to go off. I think it might have been better for him to not swing with the Claw and instead just do the Alpha Rampage and keep 1 card to put in Arsenal, though I don't really understand the Arsenal strategy for Brute. It's not a deck that I play very much, so it's possible that the cards in his hand weren't ones where he considered Arsenaling to be useful. I'm going to lead this turn off with a Whisper of the Oracle. Now, Whisper of the Oracle is an interesting card. In some ways, it's a pretty bad card, quite frankly. But the reason that it's in the deck, there's really two reasons. So first off, it's a well, so look, it's blue and it blocks for 3, and sometimes you play it as a non-attack action to buff up various things that require non-attack actions to be effective. That's why it's in the deck. I don't think it's my best card. I don't think it's even really very close to being my best card, quite frankly. But it plays an important role, especially in Blitz, where I think having stuff that blocks for 3 can be important. I think there's a relatively high ability for some decks to race you in Blitz. Dorinthia, for instance, can race you in Blitz. Some other things, and having stuff that blocks for 3 can be handy. If you do end up against Bolton, it's also nice to have a block for 3 that isn't an attack, but it isn't all that relevant. I haven't actually seen Bolton be all that successful in Blitz thus far. He's actually been doing very well in Classic Constructed in the Road to Nationals season. Bolton is actually one of the strongest contenders in some regions, and I say in some regions, I know that might sound strange, but he's one of the strongest contenders in Europe. If you're in continental Europe, Bolton is actually outperforming Chane in Classic Constructed. I'm going to publish an article that discusses some of these details in a bit, but it's quite interesting. I think that Bolton is the top deck in continental Europe right now, which is pretty different from what we've seen in some of the other regions. You know, I think that Chane has been putting up very strong results in some other areas, but for whatever reason in Europe, Bolton's been performing really strongly. And that's not to say he hasn't been getting results elsewhere. I know there's several U.S. events that have been won by Bolton as well, but for whatever reason in Europe, he's doing really, really well. So we see here another Barraging Beatdown, and it goes into a Pulping, but he actually misses. So Pulping is this card, I think you draw a card and then do a random discard, and you get a very positive effect if it ends up being a big attack. Unfortunately, he hits an Art of War, so his Pulping misses. He doesn't get Dominate. That allows me to double block it, negating the Beatdown and the Pulping. I miss my... so I end up missing my Chane Mills here. It ends up with... I think that's my second Shadow Puppetry now milled, and I forget what the other card was there, but it was another thing that I don't want to see milled off. And, you know, that's just how it goes sometimes, unfortunately. It's just how it goes sometimes. Alright, so now we're doing a turn here. I do the classic Soul Reaping, and I'm going to banish 2 copies of Seeds of Agony, giving me 2 energy. Before I do this, I've used Chane's ability for the Go Again. So this is going to give me 2 energy, and it's going to let me play out one of the seeds, and then I'm going to be able to play out one of the seeds, and then I'm going to be able to swing Nebula Blade. So this is actually not a great turn. You know, you're kind of hoping for more sometimes on Chane, but it ends up being, you know, 6 damage coming in, followed by the seeds isn't going to go off, but I have the Nebula Blade coming in for another 4 damage, and if this hits, I will get a Rune Chant. My opponent does let that hit, which I am, you know, I'm fine with that. Or actually, maybe that was I think that was actually the 6 damage that he was letting hit, and then he's thinking about how to block against the Nebula Blade, I believe, and he ends up deciding, I think he takes that damage too, or maybe slightly blocks it with some equipment or something. I do end up getting the Rune Chant as a result, and that means, you know, I'm going to have more or less guaranteed damage. Technically, he can block it with Skullcap because he's lower life than me, but not having a Null Rune item, he doesn't really have a good option. Unfortunately, this means that he's also kept a big hand, and we're going to have to see what he has in store for me. Often when someone takes a lot of damage like that, it means they have something big, and in this case, it's an Alpha Rampage. And it hits a Massacre, so that's going to be a triple Intimidate coming in for a lot of damage here. However, I actually feel pretty okay with this, and the reason for that is so Alpha Rampage is coming in, I believe, for 9 damage. I'm at 10 life. I'm in a pretty good position. So what I can do here is I can block with my armor. So I could block 3 with armor, take 6 damage. That would put me at 3 life, which is still out of range of Reckless Swing, at least for a turn, and then try to kill him on this next turn. If I have a good hand, which I believe that I do, I can likely kill him on this next turn, which means that taking the damage is okay. Because I've saved my armor thus far, I do have the ability to stay out of range of that, stay out of range of the single Reckless Swing. It's conceivable there would be a double Reckless Swing, but I think I saw one pitched earlier, and additionally, double Reckless Swing is not reliable. You have to get lucky for that to work. So we're going to see what happens here. Single Reckless Swing is actually pretty reliable because you can often block with anything you have that doesn't work and then play the Reckless Swing, but double Reckless Swing is not very reliable. And then, you know, I'd had some unlucky mills earlier. I think I actually hadn't hit a single thing with my mills, but this time I hit 3 relevant cards, and that means that I'm going to have a really big turn here. It's funny because I believe this deck is about 50% cards with Blood Debt, I believe it's about 50% cards with Blood Debt, about 50% cards without Blood Debt. And I end up going 50-50 for the game, but in a weird and skewed way. So I think the first 2 turns I milled 1 and then 2 and missed completely. And then on the 3rd turn I milled 3 and hit all 3. So that is 50-50, but it's in a kind of odd way. And now I think I'm going to be in a pretty strong position to either take over the game or maybe just kill him immediately, because I have a 4-card hand, a Rune Chant already in play, and I have a strong Banish Zone here. So I'm thinking over what the best way to attack him is. He's on 5 life, no armor, so he's in a relatively vulnerable state. And I'm just thinking about the best way to do this, but I think this is very likely going to be the game. And this has been kind of an interesting game. That Intimidate stuff from Brute can be really good, but he needs to be just a little bit closer to actually killing me for it to be effective. Thinking about it more, I'm not sure that using that Mandible Claw was wrong. I'm not sure what the value of other stuff is. Sorry for the llama guy or whatever that is that appears there. I think it's maybe kind of a pun because it has a llama head and it looks like maybe a Buddhist monk's robe or something. So it might be a play on words for llama there. But if other people come in to watch, they appear for a moment until I hit that show non-video participants thing when we're playing these Discord games. So then I'm going to do that's going to be a Seeds, and we're going to do it's going to be a Seeds into a Shadow. I think I banished another Seeds, maybe. He's going to block the Shadow, but take the arcane, the 2 arcane damage, 1 from the Seeds and 1 from the Rune Chant. Then I'm going to do another Seeds into another Seeds, use Chane, Bounding Demagon coming in for another 1 arcane and 4 physical. And, you know, he's really getting taxed here. He basically can't stop the arcane, and then this 4 physical, if he blocks with 1 card, that leaves him on 1 life, and that means I'm going to be able to make a Rune Chant and come in with another attack, which he probably can't stop, and we're going to see what happens here. But I think this is going to be the end of the game. And I also still have my Snapdragon Scalers available. 3 cards in hand, 1 card in the Banish Zone that I can play. I believe it is a red Unhallowed Rites, and so that's probably going to be the end of this game. And yeah, so he ends up playing the Reckless Swing. It does hit me, brings me down to 2 life. If he had another Reckless Swing, he could kill me with that, but he doesn't, and that also means that he only has 1 card remaining, which means this is going to be the game. I end up playing this is I believe a red copy of Meet and Greet. So he blocks for 3 with his last card, takes 1, I get a Rune Chant. It had Go Again because I played an arcane damage card. And then I'm going to be able to come in with the Unhallowed for 4, and even if he could somehow have blocked that, I still could have used Snaps and then came in with the Nebula Blade for another 4. So that last turn was real big, and that is indeed going to be the game. Alright, so that was that was an interesting game. I think that there were some unlucky breaks from my opponent. You know, that turn 1 Tear Limb from Limb could have been really big, but he ended up banishing his 1 card that was good with it, and then ended up having kind of an ineffective turn 1. His Pulping missed, so that could have been strong. And I do think that it was... I'm not entirely sure. I do think it might have been a bit of a misplay the way that he did that Alpha Rampage with the Claw coming in a way that allowed me to negate his Barraging Beatdown. I think that if he had just played the Alpha Rampage and arsenaled a card that would be good for the future, that probably would have left him in a stronger position, but I could be wrong. So that was the first game, but we're gonna show a few of these. I'm not sure how many of these we're gonna get through, but I have several games queued up here. So next up is going to be, and these are all going to be games played at the same tournament. This isn't all my games. So this one, so that was I think that was maybe the second round of Swiss. I had another game against a Dorinthia player, and I had another game against Ira, and then maybe one more where so I didn't record the one against Dorinthia. There was another one that I legitimately forgot to hit the record button on. Like, I was planning to record it, and I just didn't do it. And then there was one that was, what was it? There was one that was... I looked at the recording and it wasn't very legible. It was a game against Ira, but I had a win against Ira, a win against Dorinthia. That win against Brute that I just showed. I had one other game. I forget what hero it was, but I believe it was a win. That was the one that I forgot to record. And then for the 5th Swiss round, I find myself playing against Bravo here. And this is a player. That I have actually played against before. I think he's a strong player. I've won sometimes. He's won sometimes. He has a kind of unusual Bravo deck where he's big on pummel. I think he has 6 pummels. And so he plays much more aggressively than a lot of Bravos do, and historically that's been more of a problem for me. So now we're going to see, this player's name is Kurt, and he's quite a strong player, also a very nice guy, fun opponent to play against. So we're going to see how my game against Kurt ends up going here. This is the last round of Swiss, and I have 4 wins. It was 5 round Swiss into top 8. So I am going to be in either way. Nick's making fun of me saying Blitz in September 2021. Yeah, so I have another stream planned actually where I'm going to be showing some Bolton Classic Constructed gameplay that I've been recording. But I wanted to show this because I had seen some requests. There's been at least one request that I saw on the blog for streamed gameplay of the Chane Blitz deck that I've been playing, and I also wanted to say, hey, if you guys want to check out this tournament, there's going to be another one this evening, and so we are doing a Blitz stream. I know that there's a lot of focus on Classic Constructed, but we're going to be showing some of that later. And so recently I have been playing Chane in Blitz and Bolton in Classic Constructed. That's just been kind of what I've been doing. And yeah, so right now we're going to stay on this. And so it's myself versus Kurt. It's going to be hopefully an interesting game. Actually, I've already watched it, so I know it's an interesting game. He equips the Null Rune Hood, and here we go. Oh man, I'm hoping this recording works. I was having a little bit of problems with some of these recordings. They were they're a little bit jerky. And I'm hoping this ends up being good. Let me know let me know in the chat if it becomes like unwatchable or whatever, if there are substantial problems. Oh yeah, little fun fact also, I think I lost every single dice roll this tournament. I think we did odds or evens all 5 times, and every single time I got it wrong. So, little fun fact there. Ended up not doing so well in terms of first or seconds, but it ended up working out for me anyway. So here we are. In this round, I believe my opponent will be going first, which is generally the better call in this matchup, I believe. I think I want to go first, and I think he wants to go first. All right. So Kurt here is going to start off the game. Bravo likes going first. There's a lot of stuff he can do, and then here we see one of the scariest things, the turn 1 Towering Titan. So he has 3 blues that he can pitch to play out a Towering Titan, and it's going to give a huge buff to his next attack. That is absolutely not what you want to see on the other side of the board. So already I'm a little scared. Bravo has a lot of cool stuff he can do on the first turn. Sometimes you can do like a strong attack with Dominate, but the Towering Titan turn 1 might be the best of all, and I've got to stare it down. Okay, so now I'm thinking about what I can best do. Now, the one upside to this is it does mean my opponent doesn't have an arsenal card. So I'm going to try to do what I can, but I have a feeling I'm going to take some damage. Now, there is a chance that this is kind of interesting. With Towering Titan, there is a chance that you will not draw a Guardian attack, and therefore that it will be wasted, because it only applies to Guardian attacks, and I've seen this happen before. I'm hoping this will happen, but I don't think it's necessarily so likely. So I'm going to play, that's going to be a Seeds of Agony. I'm going to use Chane, come in with the Nebula Blade. We'll see what my opponent does here. And the Nebula Blade, by the way, is, I think, just the best weapon in general. So he ends up going with an, for Chane, that is, he ends up going with an armor block. That's going to be not only the Tectonic Plating, but also Crater Fist coming in. And then I end up using a, I think it's a red Unhallowed Rites. And I put the Seeds of Agony on the bottom of my deck. Not that it's going to matter because this is an aggressive game. Unfortunately, it was a blue Seeds of Agony, I believe, which means that it doesn't actually trigger Unhallowed Rites. So then he just takes the 4 damage, and now he's going to come in with whatever huge attack he has in store thanks to his Towering Titan. And I'm feeling a little scared. You know, he managed to avoid blocking with anything. Still did take some damage. So I got some stuff through, got a counter, got a card in Arsenal, but here comes the pain, assuming that he drew a Guardian attack action card, which quite frankly is pretty likely with these Guardian decks having a lot of attacks typically. A lot of these Guardian decks are running various blue attacks. Now you might not necessarily see the attacks actually being used to attack versus being used to block with, but they typically have a pretty big thing. Now, what I'm hoping here is that it isn't something like a Crippling Crush, which would just be, oh, it would be painful. But let's see what he's got. Presumably the fact that he kept his cards means that he does have some big attack, or else he might have just blocked out and swung the hammer. So I'm not at all confident that I'm going to be able to... Not at all confident I'm going to be able to laugh this one off. Let's see what happens here. Unfortunately, the video was a little... There was a little bit of lag or something. I'm not actually sure what was going on, but the video is pretty choppy here. I figured this was a pretty cool game anyway, so I wanted to broadcast it. But my apologies for this situation where there's a bit of a gaffe. So yeah, I think this ends up being a Chokeslam. So Chokeslam is not actually all that good a card. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. And I don't say that as an insult to my opponent. It's one of those cards, it's one of those blues that you normally end up not really playing. But it's going to come in here, and I think this prevents your opponent's attacks from gaining strength or something next turn. I actually don't know what it does. In fact, let's look up Chokeslam. So Chokeslam is a Guardian attack action card. I believe it's from Crucible of War. And its effect is going to be here if it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, attack action cards they control can't gain attack during their next action phase. So basically, it kind of imposes the snag effect on somebody. So if this hits me. And there's a few cards where this is pretty relevant. So, like, you can't do an E-Strike 7 if you get crushed by this. You can't do a, you wouldn't be able to get a bunch of stats off a Riftbind and so on. But because it's only attack action cards, it doesn't apply to Nebula Blade. It's not all that good, but it is going to be big numbers. So, this is a blue Chokeslam, which I believe comes in for 6. But it is buffed up by a blue Towering Titan, I believe, which means it is going to be pretty strong. I think it's going to be... What is the total on that? I think the blue Towering Titan is going to be... Is the blue one plus 8? I actually don't remember. Anyway, it's really big. It's terrifying. Towering Titan is another one of those cards that you don't actually see played out very often, simply because it costs 9. 9 is a lot, and it doesn't exert any pressure on its own. Okay, so the blue Towering Titan is indeed plus 8. So this is a blue into a blue, but it's still coming in for 14 damage. And I'm thinking about what the best way to respond to this is, and I'm not so happy with this development. And what I end up doing is I'm going to block with 1 card plus the Husk. So I'm blocking 9. I'm going to take 5. I figured there was a chance my opponent was going to pummel me. He has this kind of pummel-based deck. I'm like, okay, I'll get pummeled. Playing it now, at least it means he doesn't have it later, and I wasn't trying to avoid the crush. I do end up discarding an E-Strike, which is kind of sad. Interestingly, this is one of the situations where that Chokeslam effect is actually strong because it would prevent me from doing E-Strike 7. I then mill 1 card. It is going to be an Unhallowed Rites there. Unfortunately, I think it's a blue Unhallowed Rites, which is not really what I want to see. Blue Unhallowed Rites is kind of an awkward card. It's important if someone goes for a defensive style against you, but the thing about it is that it can sometimes just be inflicting blood debt in a way that you would rather avoid. So, for instance, in this turn, I think I'm going to end up playing out the blue Unhallowed here, and it ends up being pretty low impact. And however, I feel that I can't afford to take constant blood debt. So yeah, that's exactly what I do. So it ends up being blue Unhallowed coming in. Yeah, so and to be fair, I could have done, I don't know, I could have done like E-Strike 5 draw or something, or E-Strike 5 go again. It's not that exciting. That is actually a situation where the Chokeslam buff was relevant because it meant that those E-Strikes couldn't be E-Strike 7s. Alright, well, now I'm at 11 and he's at 14. That's not really a spot that I like to be in. Additionally, I've already used my Husk. Now, on the plus side, I do have my other armor remaining and his armor is damaged. I do have an armor advantage at this point, so I'm technically... So, like, if you count each of my remaining armors as 3, which is sort of true, I'm kind of at 17 to his 16, so you could claim that I'm ahead. He ends up going for a CNC, which he does pummel. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes he has it. I lose a CNC of my own. That's actually not that bad because he doesn't have an arsenal card in this situation, but it does mean I'm taking some more damage. And he draws up. This time I do hit... I hit an Unhallowed again, but this time I believe it's the red version, I'm not sure. And unfortunately my turn ends up being use Chane's ability, Arsenal Pass, or Pass Arsenal rather. Not the most exciting turn in the world by any means. So then my opponent here is going to have another chance to attack me big. I have a bunch of stuff here. He uses Bravo's ability, which is not always a good sign, and it is going to be, I believe, a Spinal Crush. But at this point, Dominated Spinal Crush coming in, I believe, for 9. I can actually stop that. Now, this is not so bad. I have the armor, and I have a card, and maybe this is going to be my chance to turn things around a bit. So I'm looking at my hand. I can block 4. I really want to stop the crush effect, so I can block 4 there, and then I can block with a card as well, and then try to come back with a big turn and put a lot of pressure on him. I am definitely on the back foot here, but this isn't going to be as much pressure as I think maybe he was thinking. I end up blocking, I think I block with a blue Meet and Greet there, though I'm not 100% sure. So blocking 7, taking 2, not getting crushed. And now I have 3 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal. I'm going to be able to hopefully make a big comeback here. Let's see what I can do. Now, of course, I'm way behind on life at this point. It's looking like a pretty negative situation for me in a lot of ways. But, maybe this is going to be my opportunity to do some major damage. Let's see what I can inflict on my opponent here. And there is no pummel coming in, which I think I knew. So that means I do have a window with 3 cards in hand, 1 card in banish. I'm gonna 1 card in arsenal, 1 relevant card in banish, and I'm gonna banish 3 more things. We will see whether or not it ends up buffing me further. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. I think there were some lag issues. Yeah. Or something going on, so we reset it. A bunch of spectators are joining because other games have ended at this point, I believe. So I end up milling I think I've milled a Seeds and a Ghostly Visit. I play the seeds from the Banish Zone. I use Chane. I'm gonna play the Unhallowed and put the seeds back on the bottom of the deck. So coming in for 4. I forget what color seeds it is, but I might be coming in for Arcane as well. And I do have 2 floating. Okay, so my opponent's going to block 2. He takes 2 here. I think he also takes 1. Yeah, he also takes 1 from the Arcane. So he's out of armor. He's out of armor. I've hit with Arcane damage. And that is going to... that's going to hopefully mean some big stuff coming. So I then throw out the Shadow Puppetry into CNC. This is a great 2-card combo. So Shadow Puppetry gives the next attack attack action card you play this turn +1 attack, go again, and if this hits, you may look at your top card and decide whether or not to banish it. So all of a sudden my opponent's like, uh-oh, he just used both of his last pieces of armor. He has no more armor, so he's going, and there's no defense reactions against the CNC. So he has to either triple block this, or it's going to destroy his arsenal card and allow me to potentially get another card off the top of my deck. It's into the Banish Zone, and with some cards, that could be really strong. Like if I get lucky and hit, like, say, Bounding Demagon, that could be another attack coming in towards him this turn. Could be quite good. Let's see what happens here. My opponent's Wayne is option. CNC 7 go again is no joke. But it's going to be very awkward to block because he doesn't have that armor anymore since he used it on that first attack. If he had even 1 point of armor, he could probably do double block plus a card, or double block plus 1 point of armor, which would shut down the 7. It would be strong. He ends up, I think, figuring that he's got to eat it. At that time, he was dismissing some like notification on his phone or something. It wasn't actually anything that meaningful. Let's see how things progress. He's thinking about it. And Shadow Puppetry Command and Conquer is a really strong 2-card combination. One of the kind of bread and butter combos for Chane. Not only does it threaten the opponent a lot of stuff doesn't work against it. He ends up going for a 1-card block here. Takes 4 damage. I look at my top card. I'm trying to decide whether or not to banish it, and I end up getting a Tome of Fyendal out of the arsenal. I'm really happy to see that. My opponent is playing the Mage Master Boots, so he would have been able to probably use Mage Masters, play Tome, get some healing, get some extra cards, and be in a good position. I think I end up not banishing here, but I don't remember. And so now we're looking at the cards here. And I end up pitching actually pitching a copy of Soul Reaping that I had in hand in order to play the Ghostly Visit. And actually, this represents, I think, a significant mistake that I made on the previous turn. Now, it's hard to say for sure because you don't know what you're going to banish. That's one of the disadvantages of Chane. It's a little harder to plan your turn. But I kept that Soul Reaping. I think I actually should have blocked with it, because the card that I ended up blocking with was a 3... the card that I ended up blocking with was 3 pitch. So if I had a 3 pitch in hand instead of this Soul Reaping, I actually could have played the 3 pitch card. I could have... so I pitched the 3 pitch card, played the Ghostly Visit to come in for 4, and then I could have actually used my Snapdragon Scalers and come in with the Nebula Blade for another 4, which would threaten lethal. He would have to block with at least 1 card. That would probably put him in a position where he only has a 2-card attack, can't get me, and maybe next turn I overrun him. So, interestingly, I was like, oh, Soul Reaping's a great card, you gotta keep Soul Reaping, but I think it may have been to my detriment there, though it's possible there was a better way that I could have played that last turn where the Soul Reaping would have factored in. You know, I'd have to think about it more. It's at least conceivable to me that there was a way that I could have done that better. I'm not sure. But in any case, my opponent is coming in with a big dominated attack, 3 life to 3 life, and I cannot quite get there. I think it is a I forget exactly what attack it is, but I think it comes in for 7 dominated, and I can only block 4 of it because our skull caps are currently equal. So ultimately, the turn 1 Towering Titan was bad. I almost make a big comeback with that last turn, but don't quite get it. Bravo is able to overwhelm me. And yeah, so I thought that was an interesting game, in part because of that decision with respect to blocking with Soul Reaping. Normally, Soul Reaping is totally not a card that you want to block with, but in this case, I think that blocking with it might have been a better option. Keeping that blue would have let me threaten with a Nebula Blade swing, threatening lethal. He has to block with another card. And because he has to block with another card, that then means that he cannot do the huge dominated attack. He does something that I can probably stop, and then I get another chance to try and get him. Do I win the game for sure? Absolutely not. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but it would have put me in a better spot. So, you know, even Flesh and Blood, one of the things that I really like about this game is the big flexibility of the various cards that you have. And Soul Reaping, even one of your best cards, Soul Reaping, sometimes that's a card that you should be blocking with. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Alright guys, that is actually going to do it for this stream. I want to take a short break before the next tournament starts. If you guys are interested in playing in this event, I am going to I'm going to send the link to the event stuff over to the stream chat. These are actually happening every Monday. So there was a previous event, the Discord Gauntlet tournament. That was, in my opinion, more or less the best deal in Fab. That was a webcam blitz tournament that was happening every Monday. A lot of them had high quality casting. Early on, it was Brendan Patrick from Arsenal Pass and Rob Seigel from Talarian Dropouts were doing the casting. And then later it changed, and it was Brendan still on there, but now joined by Dante Delfico, a very strong player from Canada. They've had some really good commentary on those. But that tournament series is temporarily suspended. I believe it is going to start up again once Tales of Aria comes out, or at least that was the last I heard on that. I personally think that should be pretty hype. But because those tournaments are suspended, there's another tournament going on at the same time. It is the Battle Royale tournament hosted by the Fighters Guild. And so they're doing these online armory events themselves. It is a Blitz armory. And I'm going to be playing in this one. I am also going to be sending you guys the link to this one here. So if you check this out, that's a link to their Discord where they have, I believe, the sign-up information for the Fighters Guild. If any of you guys want to jump in on this Armory Blitz thing, they have some cool prize support, so I think it's $10 entry fee, 4 or 5 rounds, cut to top 8. Top player wins a Welcome to Wraith Unlimited booster and a cold foil from an armory kit. Second place is 12 packs Welcome to Wraith Unlimited and a playmat. Third and fourth place each get 6 packs Welcome to Wraith Unlimited, and 5th through 8th place get first free entry to their next event. So they have some pretty robust prizing for this event. And it's also a chance to get some, it is, I believe, an armory, so it is a chance to get that triple experience if you're trying to get up on the experience leaderboards. I personally did not make any Road to Nationals event thus far. There's a slim chance that I will in the future, but it might be that I'm going to have to just do well on 90-day XP if I want to make qualify for U.S. Nationals, so it's going to be an interesting situation there. Anyway, shout out to the Fighters Guild for in the tournament. I will actually be streaming again with some of the other games that I had recorded from that tournament. I have a few more games that were recorded from the cut that I thought were pretty cool, but for now I'm going to be taking a break. Thanks to you all for watching. We're going to be having streams more regularly going forward. I don't know the exact timing. I have to make some changes to my setup and so on, but it should be fun. Also, one that I do know the timing for, we're going to have, it's going to be the 8th of September. 8th of September, I have a preview card. Wednesday, September 8th, I have a preview card from Tales of Aria, and we're going to be doing a preview stream. I've seen some of the card already. I have not looked at its text fully, though, and I'm going to be doing kind of a live react and commentary on this card. It should be pretty exciting, guys. So 8th of September, Monarch preview stream, and before then, I'm probably going to be doing 1 or 2 more streams. I think I'm going to be doing some we might even have more than 1 or 2, depending on what my stream schedule ends up looking like. But I think we're going to have some more of this Blitz gameplay, and we will also likely have some Monarch constructed gameplay featuring Bolton. And those games are going to be featuring Tabletop Simulator, which is a little more legible than these webcam games. So get hyped for that, guys. More streaming stuff coming soon. And if you're interested in checking out the meta, do feel free to check out towernumber9.com and click on the Fab results tracker thing in the menu. You'll see some information that I'm tracking with respect to the Road to Nationals meta, and there's some interesting stuff there for sure. Nix asks, can I have a preview of the preview? The answer is no. There is no preview of the preview. I will say that I think it's going to be exciting, but I really can't comment on the specifics of the card. So until the 8th, when I will be commenting quite publicly on the specifics of the card. Should be fun. Fest the Best says, congrats on the spoiler, can't wait. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, that is... No, I believe Nick says 8th in NZ time, of course. I believe it's going to be the 8th US time. I'll look at that just to make sure, but I believe it's going to be the 8th by US standards. In any case, that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we're going to be back later with some more Flesh and Blood content. Yeah. Have fun out there, and perhaps I'll see some of you in the next Fighters Guild tournament, which is going to start in about half an hour. All right, guys. Catch you later.